Hi, Mark. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. It's very nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me
Um,
on, Joseph. I'm looking forward to this, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
you're welcome. Let's start with a quick intro to kick things off. Can you share a little bit about yourself and tell me about your carnivore journey? How did it all start for you?
Okay, I'll try and keep it brief because I could go on about this for about an hour. So I'll keep it as brief as possible. So it all started off when I was very young. I had an eating disorder from around I'd say about 12 years of age. I didn't realize what an eating disorder was. I was quite bullied back in school. I was severely overweight. Never had any confidence. And I didn't like what I seen in the mirror. So I always wanted to change. So back then I was like, okay, what do I do? So I got into sports. I got into sports, but I was never good at it because I was overweight. So I was like, okay, what do I do about this? So I remember leaving the school and I remember walking into my local shop and I picked up this magazine, this fitness magazine. And I remember looking at the front of it, and this guy looked incredible. He had the six pack, he had all this muscle, and I was like, I'd love to look like that one day. I'd love to do that. So I took the magazine home with me, and all I could see was because I had no money back then, and all I could see was he was doing press ups, he was doing ab crunches, he was doing pull ups in his room, and I was like, I can do that. So I did it for a while, and I was running 2 or 3 days a week. Then it got addictive. It got really addictive. So I did this over 6 months, a year. And then my mother turned around and said to me, why don't you not just join a gym? And I was like, okay, well, I'm only 13. I don't think I'll be allowed to join a gym. And she was like, well, you can just go down and ask. Because my mother knew the gym owner. So I went down and he agreed. He let me go into the gym. So I fell in love with the weights, the classes, just everything that came with the gym. So that went really well. But like I said, I was going through this period. I was going through an eating disorder. So I was looking after my food. I was restricting myself to the point where it got really bad, like really bad. Then I became anorexic. I think it was around 14, maybe 15 years of age. I was severely underweight. I was under around 50 pounds in body weight, which is very low. I think that in Europe, that's around under 4 stone, something like that. So I was really underweight. And then we were on a family holiday. Long story short, I collapsed. I went up this switched the channel, had no energy, had no fuel in my body whatsoever. Um, apparently I was out for 5 minutes. My heart had stopped during that time. And then they brought me into this hospital and they told me, like, listen, your child is severely undernourished. He's not eating properly. And we need to put him on a drip and we need to feed him every couple of hours. So now at that stage, you're looking at someone who had a massive fear of food. I don't know if you know much about anorexia, but it's basically when you have a fear of food, basically. So when they brought me into the hospital, they were trying to fat me up basically, and I didn't want that. I had put all this work into my body to look a certain way. The last thing I wanted was to be fat again. So that's what was in my mind. I didn't think these people were actually helping me until one night my mother came into the room and she held my hand and she looked at me. She said, "We don't want to lose you. We don't want to lose you." And she started crying, and I was like, "Okay, well, I better do something about this, because I don't want to see my mother upset." So that's the one I said, okay, the next day I'm gonna start listening to the doctors. So I went by the doctor's advice. They were feeding me everything: ice cream, processed crap, weight gainer shakes, protein bars. Just the nutrition was really bad. But back then I didn't know anything. I didn't know any different. I just went by the experts. So anyway, I did that for a while. I went through the therapy and I eventually came on the other side. But when I came on the other side, I still didn't feel good. And then my parents were like, okay, well, we're never letting you go down that route ever again. So then they wanted to put some discipline into me. So this is when they brought me into this is when they brought me into a rugby school. Now, I don't know if you know anything about rugby, but this is the opposite. These guys are huge. They're massive guys. They have a lot of mass, a lot of like just big guys, and they've got a lot of confidence. So this was around when I was around 18 years of age. So they brought me in, and they taught me about discipline. They taught me about how to lift weights properly, and I really enjoyed it because I put in a lot of strength. And back then I thought it was muscle, but it wasn't muscle. I was just getting fatter, but I was getting bigger and I had a lot more confidence. And these were feeding me pretty much every 2 hours, but it was mainly heavy carbohydrates. So I was eating a lot of carbohydrates, and that's why I blew up. And my biggest was over I was around 280. I was a big guy. I was a huge guy. So I put in a lot of weight in 7 years. So then I came out at the rugby, and I wanted to learn more about fitness. So that during this time, I had become a qualified PT, so I knew how to weight train. I knew how to get in shape. So I was like, okay, I'm going away from the rugby. This doesn't work for me because something's not right here. Because I was dealing with mental health issues at the time, um, and for years I could lose weight, I could gain weight, I could lose weight, and I could gain weight. And then about 6 years ago, I came across the keto diet by accident, and because I knew carbohydrates didn't work for me, because I tried carb backloading. I used to eat just carbs after training, and I always knew carbohydrates just didn't agree with me. And everybody kept on saying to me, "It's in your head. You should be eating carbohydrates." But I was like, I don't think this works for me at all. So I took them out accidentally. I just took them out and I said, right, I'm just going to focus on eating vegetables and protein and very, very little fats. Because back then I was terrified of fats. I was like, okay, this is what we were taught, and this is what we were taught in school. Don't eat too much fat. It's going to raise cholesterol. It's going to give you a heart attack. It's not good. So I was eating just mainly vegetables and protein, and I got an amazing shape, but I didn't feel good, and my mental health issues were still there. So I was like, this is not right. And it was always in my mind, okay, you're a fitness professional. You should not be on medication. You should not be going down the antidepressants route. Like, surely, because I was actually coaching this at the time. Um, and I was getting to the stage where I was giving up on life. I was literally giving up on life to the point where I was suicidal on so many occasions. And then I came across this podcast 6 years ago, and this guy spoke about the carnivore diet, and I had never heard of the carnivore diet in my life. Never. He was just basically saying they eat meat, and that's it, just red meat. And in my mind, straight away, I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. He's just eating red meat. Surely he's going to have a heart attack. But then I went into his Instagram, and look, the guy looked incredible. He was a bodybuilder. He looked insane. He looked absolutely insane. And then the more I listened to his story, the more it resonated with my story. So I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to give this a go. I'll give it a go and let's see what happens. So I went back, and all I ate was just red meat, water, and salt. That's all I ate. And within 2 to 3 days, my mental health issues were gone. Gone. All this pain I was going through, all this emotional pain, I was gone. Everything was gone. My inflammation was gone. I just felt incredible. I just woke up the next day and I was like, okay, I don't need to go to bed anymore. I don't need to have a mid-afternoon nap anymore. I'm feeling really, really good. So I was like, is this a diet? Is this what I'm eating at the moment? So I said, right, I'm gonna do this for about 2 or 3 weeks. I'm gonna do it for another 2 or 3 weeks. It kept on getting better and better and better. And I was like, wow, this is insane. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start coaching this. I'm gonna start coaching this carnivore lifestyle. But in order to do that, I need to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I studied the likes of Ken Berry, Dr. Kiltz, Sean Baker. The list goes on and on. There's so many to name. There's so many. Um, and I did this for about 6 to 8 months. And every single day I was on the laptop studying these people, and I was listening to testimonials. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, why don't people know about this? And then after that, when I had enough knowledge, I took on my first client for free. And this person was in a really, really bad way. They were on a list of medication. They were type 2 diabetic. But I kind of had an idea what I was going to do. Within 3 months, I was able to get this person down to she lost an awful lot of weight. She put her type 2 diabetes into remission. She was off all her medication. Our mental health issues were gone. She just looked incredible. And I was like, okay, I feel confident I can take on more clients here. So ever since then, I've been putting stuff on social media, like video. I do a video pretty much every day. I'm very, very confident in how I coach. And this is what I've been doing now for the last 6 years. I've been a carnivore coach now for 6 years. I've worked with an awful lot of women. To this day, I've probably worked over maybe around 200 women at this stage. I've worked with all conditions: obesity, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, PCOS, endometriosis, fibromyalgia. The list goes on. Menopause. I've worked with an awful lot of women in menopause also. And women are always getting back to me and saying, but you're a man. How do you possibly know what a woman is going through? And I'm like, I always get back to them and I'm saying, like, there's one thing you can't argue with, and that's the results. Like, these people are feeling great. They're losing weight. They have no more hunger issues. They're not moody. They're not cranky. They're not having any issues with their menstrual cycle anymore. They're actually enjoying training. They're getting the results now compared to that in the past they couldn't get the results. So that's why I feel very, very confident what I'm doing now works, because I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So yeah, that's the base of my story.
That's impressive, Mark. I think I really like listening to your backstory when you were young. I think it's impressive how you manage pretty much everything, given how much you've dealt with and, health wise and other things. Also, how you took ownership of your health every stage of your life, from what you said, anorexia and obesity many years later, also mental health issue. I feel like maybe I'm just adding on to this. I feel like it's not just about your health, it's also about you refusing to give up on yourself. And
Absolutely.
Carnivore played a big role on that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like, sorry for interrupting, because I do this a lot. So if I'm interrupting, you tell me. But yeah, this is the reason why
Okay.
it was always, for me, it was always an ego thing. I had to look a certain way. I had to be skinny, and I was always chasing perfection, always. Whereas now in my stage in my life, I'm just happy. I couldn't care less how I look. I do look good, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is I know I'm healthy because I don't have any more inflammation problems. I don't have any more joint pain. Mental health issues were huge for me. I was very, very depressed. I was always anxious. I would always let small things get to me. I was always getting into little fights. That's all gone now. That's all gone now. I'm just normal now, and I'm very, very grateful that I came across this diet or this lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. Because if I didn't come across this diet, I can hand on my heart, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, that's what's impressive, for me. I think what touches me more. But what motivates you to keep on going? Before going carnivore, does the motivation feel like it's something you had to force? Life in general, or does it feel different now? What motivates you now, also, like before and after?
Well, I think what motivates me now is helping others, because I've seen what this has done for me, and that's my biggest motivation. There's so much rubbish out there on social media, so much rubbish, and I refuse to see anybody else suffer. I'm seeing so many people at the moment that are asking questions. They're not getting the answers they're looking for. Every second person that you speak to is on medication. You can clearly see so many people are really, really struggling at the moment, and they're only been pointing in one direction, and that's to our healthcare system. That's where they're going, pretty much. I mean, you look at what's going on in the world at the moment, whether it's type 2, fatty liver, mental health, even obesity. I say this all the time on my videos. You look at our obesity crisis at the moment, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Now you need to ask yourself the question, why is it getting out of hands? Why is it really, really bad? Is it down to that these people are not tracking their calories? Is this the reason why? I don't think so. I don't think this is the reason why people are struggling. Now, when we look at the main reason, because this is what I hear all the time, I hear people saying that I couldn't stick to a diet because, first of all, I was miserable. And second of all, I was always hungry. So now we're getting somewhere. So now it's not about the calories. It's not about the calorie model. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it could be down to hormones, in particular your insulin, your blood sugars. Maybe we need to control that situation. And then when you look at what they brought out at the moment, they brought out these GLP-1 injections for one reason and one reason only, and that was to control your hunger. That's what they did. They brought them out to control your hunger so you're able to lose weight a lot easier. But people don't understand. First of all, your stomach produces all the GLP-1 your body needs. You can do this if you put the right steps in place. How do we do that? Very, very simple. You keep insulin low. Very, very low. The lower your insulin, then you're not going to have to eat on a regular basis. Because that's where I struggled. When I had the carbohydrates, I was eating around 6 to 8 meals a day. I would eat a meal, 2 hours later I'm hungry again. 2 hours later I have to eat again. So I could never shut that hunger hormone off ever. And that's why I always had a bad relationship with food. Always had a bad, and I used to wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be so hungry, I'd have a banana and a protein shake because I was constantly hungry. So that's when I said to myself, okay, something has to be done here. And that's where I'm seeing at the moment. Everybody's struggling with their hunger when they go on a diet. They're just been told, okay, you need to suck it up. It's all about discipline. You probably hear this yourself. You need to suck it up, just count your calories, stop going on like a baby, and just do what you're told pretty much. And everybody's doing this. I know everybody's doing this. So, like I said, do we blame these people and say that you're the problem? You're the problem when you can't lose weight? Or is it down to the information that you're getting? And I believe it's down to the information. I believe that everybody in the world has been taught one thing, and that's going into a calorie deficit. We all know a calorie deficit works. We all know we can go on a low calorie diet, but how long does it work for? It only works for a short term. Okay, how many people do you know go on a low calorie diet and then 3 months later they put the weight back on? Happens all the time. All the time. They always put the weight back on, and they can't understand why did I just all of a sudden regain the weight? You regained the weight because you didn't solve the main problem. This was never a calorie issue. This was always a food problem. You are addicted to carbohydrates. You are addicted to sugars. And people don't understand that. People don't understand, okay, well, how can I be addicted to carbohydrates? How? And I'm like, okay, can you go 5 days without eating any carbohydrates at all? Like vegetables, fruits, complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, any of that. Can you go 5 days without eating carbohydrates? And they're like, no, I can't. I don't think I could do that. And I'm like, well, there you go, right there. You have an addiction problem. Then we need to look at, okay, the obesity. Okay, people will say, well, the reason why these people are so obese is because they're constantly eating. But again, you need to understand why these people are eating all the time. And again, it goes back to their blood sugars, because their insulin levels are going like this all the time. They're not allowing to drop. Whereas if we switch that, add in the food that's going to control leptin, keep leptin very, very high, then what's going to happen is you're going to shut that hunger off. You're going to be able to control your weight very, very easily. And you're going to see that you don't need to eat 6 to 8 meals a day. You can probably get away with just eating 2 or 3 meals a day, because that's the way we were designed. We were designed to only eat, say, 1 or 2 meals a day, roughly. We weren't designed to eat like consistently throughout the whole day. Like, we weren't. When you look back at our ancestors, like say over 1,000 years ago, when you think about it, what were these people hunting? They would have been hunting an animal. That's what they would have been hunting. Now, don't get me wrong. Back then, they probably would have had berries. They would have had like mixed fruits, all that kind of stuff. But you need to understand, the fruits back then were not the same as what we have now. The vegetables we had back then was not the same as we have right now. Then you need to look at maybe these people didn't eat all the time. Maybe they went days without eating. Maybe they fasted, and then they had to wait until they got their kill. You know what I mean? So when we look at the way the system is run, the system is run to make sure that when you get sick and when you struggle with your health, don't worry, we have the solution for you. And that's where we're going at the moment. We're feeding people the problem, the major problem, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. This is what's leading to chronic illness. And like I said, when we all struggle, we don't know what to do. These experts all over social media, they haven't got a clue what to do either. They're saying, okay, well, listen, this could be a medical problem. You might need to go and see a doctor. Why don't we not say it's not a medical problem? And maybe we can say to these people, you haven't tried everything yet. Maybe you might need to go down this route. Maybe you might need to do the carnivore diet, a keto diet, or even a low carbohydrate diet, the carbohydrate lifestyle. And let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And then 9 times out of 10, when people do eliminate carbohydrates and they do eliminate the seed oils and the processed food and all the junk that we're told to eat in moderation, then all of a sudden people's health improve. It's remarkable. Absolutely. You probably interviewed so many people on your channel. Like I've interviewed many people on my channel also. The testimonials are frightening. It's unbelievable. There's over 1 million people in the world now that are eating this way, and they're thriving. They're absolutely thriving. And they're not worried about getting older and ending up in a care home and getting dementia and osteoporosis and sarcopenia and ending up in the healthcare system. No, they're taking matters into their own hands. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I hear this a lot from the carnivore, when they talk about sense of duty and also frustration with the nutrition and the conventional medical guidelines. I think the way they're being handled today, and also especially with the testimonials, spreading awareness. I think, yeah, I agree with all that. Coach Mark, what's your favorite food before you went carnivore?
Oh, there's actually quite a few. Um, I was I used to love donuts. Donuts was my big thing. When it comes to processed food, donuts was my big thing. When it comes to carbohydrates, I love potatoes, chips. Uh, massive fan of chips. So yeah, like when it came to the carbohydrates, even mince pies. I used to love a mince pie over the Christmas. I still do. I miss it. I miss it a lot. I used to love having a curry. Like I'd order a takeaway. I used to have one a week. I missed that badly as well. So don't get me wrong. The foods that I used to eat, it's still there in the back of my mind that I would love to have these foods, but I know the damage it's gonna do. But yeah, I could eat. There was so many good foods. But if I had to pick one that I would always have on a regular basis, every single week without fail, it would have been a takeaway every week.
Yeah, this food are very addicting. Sugary donuts, chips. Yeah, I completely agree. Um, Looking back at the start of your journey, are there any mistakes you made? Like, how did you learn from them? Did you ever had a doubt, or I guess maybe with carnivore, like oh, I'm gonna get a heart attack. Maybe in the beginning of the journey when you were doing your research, probably. Yeah.
At the very beginning, I made many mistakes. Many mistakes. I went high protein. I didn't add enough fat in. Um, I kept the vegetables. The vegetables was the last thing to go. I couldn't get rid of the vegetables because I was convinced that these had a place in my diet and they're healthy. We all need fiber. So I made many mistakes. I was still doing the cardio. I was still tracking my calories. Just so many bad habits. So I think the biggest one for me was trying to get over the vegetables and getting to the point where I had to add in enough fat. That was another one. I couldn't get my head around where I had to add in more fat. But then I realized that that's where the energy comes from. That's where you're going to feel good. If you're replacing one energy source, which is a carbohydrate, and you're not replacing it with another energy source, then you're going to feel really bad. And we know that when it comes to protein, it's not good. It's not a good substrate for energy. If you eat too much of it, you're not going to feel good. And that's why Atkins always failed. Atkins was a big advocate of just eat protein, but he never mentioned anything about fats. He never mentioned anything about saturated fats. And when we look in today's world, what's the one thing you're told to avoid? You're told to avoid saturated fat because it's going to lead to a heart attack. It's going to lead to heart disease. But what people don't understand is this, is that saturated fat on its own, was never the cause of heart disease, ever. There's not one study out there to prove saturated fat on its own was the problem. It was what you were mixing with the saturated fat. It was what you were mixing with cholesterol, what was the problem. And when we look at the Randall cycle, this is what the Randall cycle tells us. So if people are listening, I'll give you a perfect example. So when you look at like your burger or your steak, it's not these foods on its own that was the problem. It's what you were eating with these foods, like chips, your potatoes, your rice, your alcohol. This was the problem. When you're having your eggs in the morning for breakfast, were you having it on its own, or were you having it with like a glass of orange juice, some toast, some cereal? There's the problem right there. So we need to get back to basics here. This is why it's very, very frustrating when you hear these experts tell you that there's good and bad cholesterol. This is what we hear. But we need to understand there's only one cholesterol. LDL is not even cholesterol, and we hear this all the time from the experts that if your LDL is too high, this is going to lead to a heart attack. Now I can tell you right now, because I've done a blood test a couple of years ago. I haven't done one since. I got blood work done around maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and I can't remember the exact score, but I can tell you this much: when I went in, my cholesterol numbers were high, like really, really high. And the nurses and the doctors were saying, like, listen, we need to put you on a statin, and we need to lower your cholesterol, and this is not good. What are you eating? You need to bring this down. And I was like, listen, look at me. Just look at me. Does it look like I need a statin? Does it look like I'm unhealthy? I feel the best I've ever felt. And when these people were saying this to me, these people were overweight. They were overweight. And I didn't say this to these people, but in my mind, I was thinking, hang on a second. You're telling me how to look after my health when you're the one that's struggling here. You're overweight. Okay, you're the one. You can clearly see that what you're eating is not working. Okay, there's the problem right there. Then you could also see that. You could also see that in their face, the amount of stress that's in their face. So you could see these people weren't living the healthy lifestyle, and these people were trying to convince me that cholesterol was the problem. Cholesterol was the problem. And I remember, like 2 years ago, I had this conversation with my doctor, and all I asked him was a simple question. Simple question I asked him. I said, "Do you know what good and bad cholesterol is?" Or I'm sorry, do you know what cholesterol is? And his answer to me was, "Okay, yeah, there's good and bad." Now I've said this many, many times. When he mentioned that to me, that's when I knew we were in trouble. That's when I knew, okay, listen, we're in the wrong hands here. These people haven't got a clue. And I've challenged these people on social media, because all I've asked them is say, listen, okay, you're talking about how fat is demonized and we should stay away from this. This is all going to lead to problems. This is going to lead to health problems. Why don't you not come on a chat with me and let's have a live debate on this? I'll invite you on my podcast and let's have a live debate. Not one of them has accepted. Not one. They'll always get back to me and they'll always send me these random files of these studies, of this study says this. You can't argue against the study. And I'm like, okay, but what about me? What about me? Am I not the study? Am I not the research? So basically what this has done for me, and I'm not the only one. I'm sure you're the same, Joseph. There's many, many people out there that are living this lifestyle, that are eating this way, and they're thriving. So the question is simply this: do we call these people liars and go off your research, or do we actually start listening to these people? And that's the question I only ask, and they never get back to me. Never get back to me. They're just convinced. They're absolutely convinced that they're right and I'm wrong. But when you look at the system at the moment, the current health system, which includes the dietitians, the nutritionists, the fitness coaches, they're constantly failing people on a year-to-year basis. If they weren't failing people, then like I said earlier, then why is half the population on medication, on GLP-1 injections, on antidepressants, on metformin for type 2 diabetes? Why? That's the question. Why? So maybe, like I said earlier on, maybe we need to question everything. Maybe this stuff that we were told about our food is wrong. Maybe in the last 50 years, when we look at the last 50 years, the system has changed. It's clearly changed because when you look back in the 1970s, there wasn't anywhere near the amount of ingredients that's in our food right now. I was only in America there about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I went for the Christmas, and I couldn't believe the amount of ingredients that are in American food. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was bad here, where I'm from, but wow, insane. And then when you look at the obesity rates in America, I spoke to a guy, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Anthony, his name was. This guy was over 700 pounds. Big guy, huge guy. He's on my podcast. People can actually go back and listen to this. And he actually lost the weight himself. He actually researched the carnivore diet himself. Didn't hire a coach, just researched it, because he was on the point of quitting. He was on the point of giving up on life. And he spoke in the carnivore diet. He actually broke down in tears. He lost all this weight. He looks incredible. I think he's lost over 550 pounds at this stage in 3 years. The guy looks incredible, absolutely incredible. And he's living his life the way he should be living his life. He's never hungry. He never touched a GLP-1 injection in his life, and he's done all this naturally. How can you argue something against that? How? Why aren't people not listening more to his story? Like, this is what really frustrates me. Our story is not being heard. We're just being pushed towards this narrative that doesn't work. The carbohydrates, the high fiber, the low calorie, the low fat. That's what we're pushed towards. When are we going to get to the point when we just say to ourselves, it's not working? And then you look at what happened this week. Just look what happened this week. What happened to the food pyramid? It's flipped upside down. Now you still have people on social media that are still arguing the case. They're still saying that this is wrong. Like I don't get it. And this week has been really, really good because I've seen all these social media experts going all over social media, giving out, and they're panicking. And for me, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying watching all these people now grovel, because now they know that this is going to be part of the curriculum. They cannot say anymore that carbohydrates are your main source of energy. This is what you should be prioritizing in your diet, because when you look at the grains and you look at the carbohydrates on the pyramid, where are they now? They're at the very, very bottom. The very, very bottom. And the foods that we were told for years that are going to kill us are at the top. That's it.
Yeah. About the food pyramid. Yeah, completely agree.
It's just
and
funny,
I also
isn't it?
agree
Funny.
that you mentioned, like, we have to question everything and we have to keep pushing for this whole awareness about the carnivore, because the only more people who can, reach it, and, we'll have more people in the community. Coach Mark, what does a typical day or week of eating for you look like? Do you pretty much keep it consistent, or do you switch things up? Maybe you can walk me through what you usually eat.
Well, I'm pretty much line. I'm pretty much line based at the moment. I'm eating the same thing every day. I'm pretty much eating meat 99 times out of 100. I might throw in a few eggs every now and again. I might throw in a bit of bacon every now and again. But every day it's ribeye, it's strip loin, it's ground beef, and that's pretty much it. That's all I have. And I enjoy eating the same food every day. I never get bored. Never get bored of eating the same thing. How could you get bored of eating a ribeye every day? Like, I enjoy it. I use different seasoning. Um, and every day I just look forward to eating the same food. I really, really do, because that's the one question I always get asked. Do you never get bored of eating red meat? I'm like, no, never. I really, really enjoy it. I think when you adapt to this lifestyle, your taste buds change. That's what happens. Your body just gets used to this kind of eating. Um, and yeah, like I can't explain it. You're probably the same. Um, like for me, my first meal is always a ribeye. My second meal is always a ribeye or strip loin. I eat a lot of red meats. Like I was only on a radio station there yesterday, and I was telling the guys like I probably eat around, I don't know, about maybe 3 to 4, even more pounds of red meat a day, probably something in between that. And these people are saying, listen, you're a liar. Like there's no way you eat that much red meat a day. There's no way. And I have videos up on my Instagram of showing people what I eat. Um, and I'm like how can you argue what I'm eating? This is pretty much, I only eat twice a day, literally twice a day. I have my first meal around maybe 11 o'clock, maybe 12 o'clock, and I always go off how I feel. Like I don't look at my watch and say, oh my god, I'm hungry. I always go off how I feel. So some days it could be 11 o'clock, some days it could be 12 o'clock. And then I'll have my last meal maybe around 7 o'clock, something like that. And it's pretty much the same thing. What I have in meal one is pretty much the same as what I have in meal two, but sometimes I might just throw in 1 or 2 eggs. I might have a little bit of bacon, and that's it. I just keep it as simple as possible. It's for me, it's very, very affordable. Because it wasn't always like that. Back then, 6 years ago, when I didn't have money. I was living off ground beef, I was living off sardines, and I was living off eggs. So I made it very, very affordable to eat this way. But now I'm a little bit more fortunate. I'm able to afford to eat a ribeye every day. I'm one of the fortunate people. So if I'm able to afford it, then I will buy it. And I always buy my meats as well in my butchers, my local butchers. I think it's very important you support your local butchers, because what's going on in the world at the moment. I don't know where you're from, Joseph, but in Europe they're trying to bring in lab meats in from different countries, meat that has all these hormones, all these chemicals into it, and they're trying to push the farmers out, and I think it's wrong. I think it's really, really wrong. And I think if we go down that route, I think a lot of people will suffer. So I think it's very, very important that if you have a local butcher, make sure you support them 100%.
That's awesome. Coach Mark, the best thing about carnivore is that I'm sure you already know this, that, feeling good about yourself, in and out. And but what is the hardest thing about being carnivore? Like for me, has been like social gatherings, the travel, and the cravings in the beginning. But what about for you? What's the hardest thing?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. I've had times when I've went out with family, and they'll say to me, "Are you not having desserts? Are you not gonna have a drink?" And yeah, you do feel that pressure. And for me as well, I live with two other people that are not on the carnivore diet. So they just eat basically whatever they want. So they will have the treats, the curries, and they can eat whatever, pretty much whatever you want. So in that stage, yeah, it can be a little bit difficult. But now I'm past all that now. I'm like, okay, well, I have to put myself first. I have to put myself first. This is what makes me happy. I can always add these foods in if I want to. It's always going to be my choice. Nobody's ever going to put a gun to my head and say, listen, you can't eat these foods ever again. I can if I want to, and I have done. I have experimented with these foods in the past, believe me, but I've also experienced the side effects. I've also experienced the headaches, the migraines, and the inflammation problems, the joint pain, the mental health issues, they all come back very, very quickly, like very, very quickly. Like even dark chocolate. I used to be a massive fan of dark chocolate, and I only had a bit of dark chocolate about a year ago. About a year ago it was, and it was 99% dark chocolate, very, very little sugar. But then I didn't realize that it had a little bit of seed oil in it, and the next day I felt horrendous, absolutely horrendous. I was like, oh my God, I don't feel good at all. My stomach was like really, really bad. I was getting this massive migraine, which lasted for about 3 or 4 hours. I could feel I wanted to have a nap in the afternoon, and I've never had a mid-afternoon crash since I've eaten this way ever. Like I'm always up every day. I'm up at 3 a.m. every day. My circadian rhythm wait is the same every day. I wake up at 3 a.m. and I go to bed at the same time every day. So I wake up and I have so much energy. I wake up and I'm buzzing. I want to get my day started. I'm literally getting all my work done at 3 a.m. when people are in bed, and it's amazing. There's no noise. I can meditate. I can relax. You know what I mean? It's a pity that I can't do this work when there's a little bit of sunlight, but I always make sure the light is on. I always put the lights on. So that's the first light I want to see in the morning. I want to see like bright light. The last thing I want to see is my phone. I don't want to look at my phone. Couldn't care less what's on my phone. So when I get up in the morning, I'm thinking about how my day's gonna go. I'll be going to the gym in 2 hours. As I said, I'm doing a little bit of meditation. I'm going through content in my head of what I'm actually going to do, what kind of video am I going to do today, how this video is actually going to help people. And then when all of that is done, when I've looked after myself and I've given myself a little bit of self-love, which is usually about 4 or 5 hours, because my day doesn't start until around 7 or 8 a.m. That's when my day starts. That's when I look at my phone and I'll start looking at my emails, and that's when I'll start doing some content. But before that, the 4 or 5 hours, I'm making sure that I'm looked after first. I'm nailing everything. And as I said, it's not like I'm forcing myself to wake up. I don't rely on an alarm anymore. I don't look at my phone for an alarm. I just wake up naturally. My body only needs around 6.5 hours sleep. That's all my body needs. I'm fine. 6.5 hours for me is fine, and I feel great. And like I said, it's nearly 6:30 now, nearly, and I haven't had one energy crash in the afternoon. Not one. I've had so much energy. I'm not hungry. My last meal was around. I think my last meal was around 11:30 today. I'm gonna have my last meal now in about 30 minutes, an hour, and that's it. Then I'm done. So yeah, I think the social gatherings was a big one, but I also think if you're around family members, that can be also a problem also.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. 3 a.m. Yeah, that's really cool. Um, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it, and why?
One word. Um, I think it's what I said earlier on. I'm happy now. I think that's pretty much. I'm in a place now where I'm just really, really happy. I don't have any more problems. I'm loving life now. I'm loving waking up now and getting things done. So I think if anything, the carnivore diet has brought calmness, happiness, and something that I never thought was possible. That it's just you have something to look forward to now. You really do, because I'm in my 50s now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do in the next 20 years eating this way. I really do. I have so many ambitions, what I want to do, and I firmly believe I can do them eating this way because my memory is sharp, like really, really sharp. It's literally on the go. Um, yeah, there's no panic there. There's no fight or flight situation. I sleep really, really well. And I'm not panicking around food anymore. So I think another word I would use is safe. I feel safe now, if that makes sense. I feel really, really safe in my own destiny of where I'm heading, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I feel safe too now, like, health wise. Coach Mark, so as a health coach, if you could give a, piece of advice to someone just starting, or maybe someone struggling with mental health issues and they want to take back control, but at the same time, they're skeptical because they think they will get a heart attack, what would you tell them?
I would say the best thing you can do is don't be afraid to reach out for help. I think that's the most important thing. If you can't figure this out on your own, don't be afraid to reach out for help. If your car broke down tomorrow, okay, would you try and fix it yourself, or would you get an expert out to fix it? That's pretty much the question. Okay, if your washing machine broke tomorrow, instead of you trying to fix it, would you get an expert out to try and fix it? It's the same with a carnivore coach. If you decide to go down this low carb lifestyle, this keto lifestyle, this carnivore lifestyle, and you're asking the questions, okay, well, I don't want to eat these foods because these foods are they're gonna cause problems. This is what you're told on social media. Well, then you need to hire the right person, because the right person will give you the information that you're looking for. Those hard questions that you're going to ask, these people are going to be able to answer them for you. No problem. No problem. And they're going to be able to back it up for you very, very quickly. So that'd be the main thing. Do your research. Look up the likes of Joseph, myself. There are probably other amazing carnivore coaches out there. Do a little bit of research on these people. See what this diet has done for these people. And then if you feel that I've got a good feeling about this person pretty much knows what he's talking about, reach out to them. What have you got to lose? Because at the end of the day, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing all the time and getting the same outcome. Like, am I wrong? Because we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the exact same thing every single year, and you're getting the exact same outcome. So maybe you need a change. Maybe you do need to go down this carb lifestyle. You won't know until you try it. Give it a go, see what happens, and if this diet changes your life, and you get all the answers you're looking for, you've no more pain, you've no more inflammation problems, then how can anybody on social media, nutritionists, doctors, dietitians, how can anybody tell you that what you're doing is wrong? Because at the end of the day, if you're getting the results, and that's all that matters, if you're getting the results, these people can say nothing to you. Absolutely nothing.
Coach Mark, that's excellent advice. I guess I just wanted to add into this. With your coaching and your clients, how do you usually approach nutrition? Like, with them, do you meet them where they are, or does it depend on the situation? Do most of your clients pretty much ease into changes, or are there cases where carnivore or keto makes sense right away?
It depends. Like, some people want to start straight away, and then other people need to be pushed into it, like, gently. So I would say it's around maybe 70% people want to go straight into it, and about 30% they need to be shown the way. Because what I like is I like to get information. I like to get information from the client. So I'll give you an example. When I take on a client that has a heavy carbohydrate lifestyle, coming from a heavy carbohydrate lifestyle, and they don't realize they have an addiction to carbohydrates, I do it in phases. So at the very, very beginning, we're eliminating the processed food. The processed food is gone. So then I'm asking for information. I'm asking them, like, okay, tell me how you feel. So they'll say to me, I'm feeling okay, but something still doesn't feel right. I'm still walking around bloated. I'm always hungry. Something's not right. My energy's not good. I need to have these mid-afternoon crashes or these mid-afternoon sleeps, naps. So I'm like, okay, well, this is 8 weeks later. Okay, what about if, or 6 to 8 weeks later, what about if we remove the carbohydrates? So we eliminate the carbohydrates completely. The complex, simple carbohydrates, they're all gone. At this stage, we're going down the keto route, but they don't realize that I'm leading them this direction. So again, I'm looking for feedback here. So all they're on pretty much is vegetables, protein, and fats. So again, I'm asking the client, how do you feel? And they'll say, feeling really good, but something's still not right. Something's still not right. I'm still bloated. I'm still constipated. Something's not right. So at this stage, these people have worked with me for about 9 to 12 weeks. At this stage, they trust me. They trust me 100%. So at this stage, I'll say to them, okay, I want you to eliminate all the vegetables, every bit of it. I want you to eliminate the vegetables and I want you to eliminate the fruits. Now we're fully carnivore. We're fully carnivore. Now, there's a reason why I did that. I wanted them to see the journey for themselves, and I wanted them to learn from the journey. Now, if I had said to them at the very, very beginning, if you're coming from a carbohydrate lifestyle, you're going to eliminate everything. The vegetables, the fruits, the carbohydrates. You're not going to be allowed to eat your favorite foods anymore. Do you honestly believe that these people are going to stay with me? They're going to be gone. They're going to be like, I'm not staying with this person. This guy's crazy. This guy's crazy. This guy doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. But now that I've shown them the way, now they understand. Okay, now I understand why I need to go on a meat-based diet. And then once we get the body fully healed, we might be allowed to incorporate these foods back in. The vegetables, and if you want eat a little bit of carbohydrate, even though I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're healed and you're insulin sensitive, then if you want to add in, say, a little bit of carbohydrate a few times a week, once or twice a week, I don't see any issues with that. The only issue I have is if we add carbohydrate in and then the problem becomes chronic, then we have a serious problem. If you're thinking about these foods constantly and you cannot live without these foods, well, then we're in trouble. But if you can only eat these foods, say, once or twice a week or once or twice a month, me personally, I don't see any issues at all.
That's really awesome. Last question I want to ask you, Coach Mark. How do you see carnivore movement evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see it positive or negative or a mix of both? Meaning positive, more people will be in the community learning about carnivore and nutrition, and at the same time, negative would be beef prices going high, a lot of false information in the media, censorship, and so on. What are your thoughts?
Well, I firmly believe. Look, we mentioned this earlier on. Look what happened there. Look what happened this week. Look what happened to our food pyramid this week. If anything, this is going to get people. This is going to get people now thinking. The most important thing is people are going to be looking at this food pyramid and they're going to be saying to themselves, maybe the information Mark's been putting out on social media in the last couple of years, maybe he's not crazy. Maybe he's right. Because now it's in front of you. It's in front of you now. Nobody can deny this anymore. If you type in the food pyramid, this is what's going to come up. You're going to see red meat at the very, very top. So I firmly believe we're going in this direction. I think in the next 5-10 years, I honestly believe we are going to take over the world. I think a lot of people are going to be asking those questions and they're finally going to get the answers that they're looking for. Because you only need, I don't know about you, I've been doing this for 6 years. 6 years ago, there wasn't that many carnivores in the world. But now, 6 years later, there's loads. There's over 1 million people in the world now that are doing this. So many. But like I had to search 6 years ago to find carnivores. I had to search. But now you can type in carnivore and all these amazing testimonials will come up. And it's all over TikTok. It's all over Instagram. I'm part of it. I'm part of a carnivore community at the moment. I think there's over 50 people in it. We're talking from all over the world. Like I wouldn't be in this situation. I wouldn't be able to talk to you, Joseph, if we didn't all come together. We're all coming together now, which is it's just amazing. It's amazing that you're doing these podcasts and you're spreading the word, because this is what it all comes down to. It's about just getting that message out there, getting people learning about what's optimal and what's not optimal. And we can all agree that living the way we should be living and living in an optimal state, which is the carnivore diet, in my opinion, which is what we should be all eating, which is primarily red meats, and we're moving away from the processed foods. And at the end of the day, what we should be doing is we should all come together, the experts, the dietitians, the nutritionists, and we should all come up with a solution. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is just help people. Instead of having these big fights on social media, why don't we all come to a solution? And let's have a debate. Let's have an open discussion, and let's see if we can solve this health crisis that we're going through at the moment. Let's see if we can solve this solution all together. And then you never know what happens.
That's awesome outlook, Coach Mark. Coach Mark, if people want to reach out or follow you, where's the best place to connect with you?
Well, you can reach out to me. I'm on social media. Just click in my name, Fitness Beyond Time 01. Go on to Google. That'll send you to all my pages. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, you can send me an email at enismark93@gmail.com.
Excellent. I'll make sure to post all of them in the description for people who wants to reach out to you, Coach Mark. Coach Mark, thanks again for joining me today. I really enjoyed hearing your story and learning about your carnivore journey. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, Joseph. Thanks for having me on, buddy.